What is going on, Wealth Our Way Nation? It is Wild Wednesday, and so 6 p.m. Eastern, it is time for the Financial Power Hour. Kick the intro.
It's Wealth Our Way Wednesdays. You're tuned in to the Wow Network. Let's get it. Long story, where do I start? Let's begin with the interesting part. Mean streets, eroded defeat is what taught me to speak from the heart. Many choices, few of them good, that's how they keep us all trapped in the hood. If I could write a rule book for my people, I thought we could escape from there where we stood. So here I am giving content to you along that with what you should do. I'm here to speak wealth to provide you help to get it started for your family yourself. So sit down, turn up the sound, lay back with your feet off the ground. You've tuned in to the best in the streets. Wealth Away, I have the world at your feet. Let's get it. Financial Power Hour.
It is a new year. It is a new season. This is show number 1 of season number 2. I'm big time. I'm back. I didn't get canceled. And Lord knows I said enough stuff last year to merit being canceled. But with that being said, we are turning up this year. The format has changed. You saw the intro has changed. But we are still going to continue to bring you that crazy fire content. And tonight we have a show that I know is going to get everybody talking. And I have 2 beautiful sisters here with me tonight to talk with you. Tonight's show is dedicated to the male and female relationship, especially in the Black community, as we ask, do Black women find Black men to be suitable leaders? So my first guest, let me talk about this beautiful young woman who I happen to know very, very well because she's my step princess, and just an amazing woman, very accomplished. I always do the intros, and my intro is to allow people to do their own intro. So we are going to talk to Ashley Shannon, and Ashley is a beauty provocateur. She is a tarot card reader, and just all around ombudsman woman. So I like to say, you say the word is ombudsman men, but I'm gonna make it gender right. If it can be done, Ashley can do it. Ashley, welcome to the show.
Hey everyone, I'm Ashley Shannon. I like to call myself the prophetess for the culture because that fits everything all up in one. I do tarot card readings, but I also have a background in diversity. I do small business coaching. I also have a podcast where it gets real. We talk about divine conversations. We talk about real talk. We talk about life, but we also talk about what it means to be a real person in the world today. So that's who I am. Thank you for having me. I'm excited about this format because it takes me out of my everyday life. So thank you for inviting me.
Of course, babe. I wouldn't have it any other way. I think that tonight is going to be great for a couple of reasons. You and I have, of course, known each other now for 7 years, going on 8 years in May. Wow, it's crazy how time flies. But and we've had some great adult conversations. You've been my adult stepdaughter from the time I've met you, and you're super intelligent, super worldly. Your knowledge transcends that what you've learned in school and book, just your real life experience. So I am very much looking forward to you representing, of course, your own individuality, but also your like demographic.
Thank you.
Speaking of demographics, my other guest tonight is like my sister from another mister. Like just we go back so far. Like, me and K Rob. So Kelly Robinson, I got to tell y'all, this woman is the person who I call whenever any woman gets on my last nerve. Because Kelly not only is just a super tight confidant of mine, Kelly keeps it realer than any woman I've ever met. She does not keep up pretenses. She will tell you when someone is full of shit and when they are trying to play you. She is the sister that every dude needs to have to tell you how to deal with women out in these streets. She keeps it funky. Welcome, Kels.
Thank you, Tank. Thanks for having me on the show. I don't have as many accolades. I'm just a normal mom, a poet, and I've lived life. I've lived a lot of life, and I've had some great men in my life to wield and have me be the person that I am. So as we get into it, you'll see what that means as we, get into it. I had one of Tank's, one of your clients, Rick Brunson, when I first met Rick, he started talking to me and he gave me the biggest compliment ever. He told me, he said, "You talk like a nigga. You think like a nigga." And I said, "Thank you."
The craziness about it is that everybody who I've ever met who we know in common, they, what's like, Kels, oh, you keep it real. Like they by osmosis assume that I'm the realest dude ever because I'm cool with you. So peep this. Over the winter break, when things were slowing down and we were revamping the format of the show, what we really wanted to look forward to in 2023 was content that, of course, touches on financial elements of life, but really just got people thinking about ways to enhance their own personal growth. And one of the things that I see more than anything else on social media, especially in my age demographic. Now, I'm not going to date you ladies. Y'all will tell your own ages as y'all are out here. But I did pick you both specifically, not just for your beauty, your intelligence, your acumen, but because you guys got, a decade and a half between you. And we're going to speak on topics that are affecting the under 40 and the over 40. I wanted to be as even-handed and as balanced as I could on this topic because there have been times where I've talked on topics and then the feedback I get, "Oh, that works for you old cats," or, young cats do it differently nowadays. So I said, let me balance it out. We have some time to get the proper personalities up in here. So let's talk about pre-40, post-40. I was on Facebook the other day, and a young lady whose name I will not mention because I don't know if she wants me to, but she posts a lot of relationship-driven content. The other day, her post, and I'm going to mess it up a little bit, but her post was a meme, and it had the question of, give your information. And the thing was, what is your name? Where are you from? Is your DM open? What are you looking for? And as it went down in the comments of her post, very much the way I always see it to happen, dudes, what they were looking for basically equated to somebody to bang that weekend. Women, what they were looking for, husband, life partner, blah, 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 blah. And that leads us right into this discussion. When we're thinking about what women want versus what men want, and when we focus that discussion and conversation to the Black community, we come to an impasse. So I'm going to start with the first question, and I'm going to tee up Ashley first, and then after that, we're not going to have an order. We're just going to chime in when we chime in. But the first question I'm going to give to Ashley and say, how's the dating world out here, Ashley? Are you dating? What are you finding in these streets? What's going on? Take it from there.
I'm laughing because this is such a perfect conversation for me to be in. I haven't dated since I pretty much, so let me backtrack. I have dealt with some mental health struggles in the last 5 years. And so over the last 2.5 years, I decided not to date and focus on healing myself so I can live. And that was a very real conscious decision to not carry on my burdens and bring them into somebody's life because I wanted to have a partner. And that's something that I really was diligent about. So now I'm trying to get back into dating, and it's real ghetto out here. I'm not denying that. It's real ghetto out here. And the decision to get back dating now versus 5 years ago, but I was in a relationship 5 years ago. So really like 15 years ago when I was really dating, it's very different because of the advent of social media. You have a lot of these conversations and discourse where it's like men and women are against each other versus trying to figure out how can we become better. And I overwhelmingly just realized that there's a lot of people that are not dating and we're just getting in each other's beds or we're doing whatever. And we don't go through the dating process to figure out if we're actually a potential compatible match with each other. And that's the biggest issue that I'm realizing right now is what you notice in that comment section. A lot of men just like, oh, when can we hang out at your house? Like, when can I come chill with you at your house? And I'm just like, when I was 19 and 20 in college, I had more men want to take me out on dates and romance me versus right now. So I don't know how the dating world is really, because I'm saying it's kind of trash and it's kind of ghetto. It's kind of scary for me. I haven't really been out there in a while, and it makes me want to just sit back and stay home. But that's not what I want. I'm 35 with no kids, and I desire children, and I desire to be married. So what does that mean for me? It's a scary place out here.
Oh, yo, I love that answer. Kels, I need you to piggyback
Ashley, I
on
just
that.
have to say this. Can I say this to Ashley? First and foremost, at 35, no kids, your stock is high.
I realize that.
The stock is high as fuck. You just have to, as we get into it, as I always say, you have to change the perspective of what's already out here. And for me, because I am older, I've never had these issues. Telling my age now, when I say this, Tank, you probably remember, there's a Travelers Insurance commercial where they had a sea of black umbrellas. This old as shit. They had a sea of black umbrellas. And in that sea of black umbrellas, they had one red umbrella.
I've seen that, yep.
I'm the red umbrella.
There you go.
Because for me, because I have a bird's eye, I'm looking down on where I was. All y'all, not you, but most women today, even young and old, but the younger generation, y'all ask the same dumbass questions, which makes the man like, all right, I'm going to just hit it, because nothing has piqued his curiosity. When they said in that thing that Tank was talking about, what do you expect? I've never told anybody what I expect in a man. Either you will be that or you won't. Because then if I voice what I expect, I don't want you to try and fit what I just said.
Here comes the imposter. If you tell me what you want me to be, you know, one of the questions I hate most in business is when I'm going to solicit a service and the service provider asks me, what's your budget? Fuck, you need to know my budget for. How much do you charge to do what I came here to ask you to do? I asked you to paint my house. How much do you charge to paint a house? Don't ask me how much my budget is, because you're going to alter it to what I said. And you speak in gospel there, Kels. If you tell somebody what you want them to be, guess who they are? What you just told them you want them to be, for as long as they can pretend to be
that
it.
person. Exactly.
Yep, until the mask comes off.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So even with that,
was to come away.
Exactly.
But even with that being said, even with, like you said, until the mask comes off, even with that being said, I can only speak on black women. I'm probably the only angry black woman out here, angry at black women. You guys, not you guys, us, we go into shit expecting shit. You expect the motherfucker to lie. You expect the motherfucker to cheat. You expect all this shit. Whereas me, Tank can tell, you've been knowing me for a minute. I only know what you show me. This is why I don't ask questions. I don't. I'm not asking where you live, which I expect you to be working. I expect you to be driving something. This is my foundation. I expect this. But you got women that ask these dumbass questions like, damn, you expect them to have 50 roommates? You expect all of this shit? I don't expect any of that. And for the most part, because I'm a very spiritual person, me and Jesus, that's not my nigga, I read energy. My gut has never lied to me. Never. But, you know, you got the wrong people in your ear. You got girls in your ear. You got whatever. But Tank, you know, that's just me and dating. I haven't had these issues. Like, I'm going to just say this one thing that women, this is to me, who pays for dinner when the guy goes out? If he asks, blah, blah, I don't give a fuck who asks. You ask me out for dinner, the check comes, I'm saying, hey, do you want me to leave half? 10 for 10. No, shorty, I got it. Then I'm going to say, want me to leave a tip? Damn, I got it. I've never paid for dinner. And then if I'm feeling you, I'm going to fuck you up even more. You know what? You ain't got to go out to dinner. Let's go to the supermarket, get whatever you want me to cook, and I'll cook it. Nobody's doing that. Because y'all too concerned about who paying for dinner. I'm the red umbrella. Until a man meets a woman like that, it's always going to be like, oh, Netflix and chill. It's always going to be that. Always. Because you've done nothing to pique his curiosity. That's just my 2 cents.
Let me ask you this from a standpoint of what you guys both touched on, which is when you are dating and you're in that feeling out phase, or when you're going out, you're in that feeling out phase. You touched on the imposter or the representative. What I would ask you is how much of what you see out here today when you talk to men. Well, let me table that for a minute, because the subject matter here is, do Black women feel as though Black men can lead them? So are suitable leaders. Let me ask you both, do you date outside of your race?
I have.
Okay, talk to me about that experience.
It's such a long time ago. I'm going to be honest with you, is when I lived overseas. It was when I lived overseas.
Well, that's like, different.
It's like
That
it kind of
count.
right. It's when I lived overseas, so I have, and I say to myself that I would entertain it, but I love Black men. I love everything about Black men. I love the way Black men are. I love the way they look, and I am the person in my mind that I want to be my husband's spiritual protector. I can't possibly probably be his physical protector, but I can be the protector of his soul. And that's a lot of what I talk about in my spiritual world, but that's my job as the divine feminine. His job as the divine masculine is to provide and protect in different ways in the physical arena. And so going back to your original question, what we're talking about, I'm into this because that's a lot of what I talk about. For me, I love Black men. Black women are the mothers of society, mothers of humanity. So Black men are by default the fathers of society. And what does that mean? You are the God-given leader. And so as I grew up and grew up and spiritually grew up, I understand that, when I'm looking, I remember watching a video and a Black man was talking to a white man. He's like, you're looking at your father. And I'm like, that's the level of power that scares them, because you are the father of society. And when you learn to stand up in your own power, it's like, that's sexy right there. There's nothing sexier than a Black man knowing who he is and standing up like, yeah, I'm the shit. Who else going to tell me? Not that one. Not that one, or not that one. And I'm going to be there like, yes.
One of my favorite pictures on the internet that I've ever seen is, a meme. The great thing about it is you can take it and put any words over it or behind it you want and change the context. But there's one of Beyonce standing there with this attitude face, and Jay-Z is behind her with his head like this. And it said, when they get my order wrong at McDonald's and my woman got to straighten them out. Yo, there is something to be said. And I liken it to the lion and the lioness. We all know the lion is the king of the jungle. Mm-hmm. He's gonna be out there and he gonna top of the food chain, make it pop off for the whole pride. But when mama wanted to be straight, she gonna make sure it's straight. And I have had the benefit of that. So I got to tell a quick story about your mother. So when I first started dating your mom, we were Catalyst team members at a church, the Family Church, New Jersey. What's up? Shout out to Family Church, Pastors Ted and Pastors Dawn. And we were at a meeting, and we sitting, I got to tell two quick stories. One story, we're in a circle, and the pastor's in the center of the circle, and he's going around asking everybody to just briefly state what their purpose is. And the way he chose to go around the room, and where your mom was sitting, she was going to get to answer the question first. And I had never asked her such a question. I date like Kelly dates. I ain't asking all these questions. We're going to find out as we find out. So we get to Regina, and they said, yeah, Regina, what's your purpose? And she said, my purpose is making sure he fulfills his purpose. I was like, check, please. What size ring do you wear? This is a wrap. This is it. This is what I need on the team. Next thing that happened, same room, different setting. A couple months later, we're in a class that the pastors were holding. And one of the gentlemen, this is what I think steers people away from church. You got some real judgmental, self-righteous people in every church. And, we talk about the topic of I'm a inclusive, everybody deserves love type of person. But you got some old school people who swear by the Old Testament that, same sexes, marriages, same-sex relationships are the devil's work and you shouldn't be able to talk about it. So it happened to be a meeting at the end of the weekend where the Pulse nightclub shooting had happened. And a lot of people of gay persuasion were shot, hurt, murdered, whatever. This gentleman is like almost basically said, he gave a longer word version, but he basically said, that's what they get. And I took offense to that. And I turned to him and I said, man, that's, do you do everything according to God? Exactly. Da, 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 da. And instead of him answering me, his wife answered and was like, that's not what he said. And her tone was a little too high for your mom. She turned around. She's like, whoa, you don't address him directly. I was like, who is this woman next to me? And
from the projects, huh?
Yo, I gotta say, like, when you see a Black woman, so we talk about, me asking the question, do Black women find men to be suitable leaders? I have to say that as a Black man, I was raised by a single Black mom, and I've seen the best and the strength. Now I've made this statement. I've made it publicly. I've made it on Facebook. Some of the best things that have ever happened to me in my life have come at the hands of a Black woman. Some of the worst things that have ever happened to me in my life have come at the hands of a Black woman. That doesn't make me walk into every situation when I come across Black women and prejudge them, because I already know I can get the worst, I can get the best. And a lot of times it's what I bring to that situation that will create what I get back. So, Kelly, let me ask you the same question that I asked Ashley about A, dating outside your race, and then B, she kind of brought the second part of the statement up. What is it that you love about Black men?
Dating outside my race, when I was in Philly way, way back, I went on one date with a white guy. Can't remember how I met him. The entire time I'm looking at him, just looking at all the wrinkles in his face, the fact that he ain't got no lips. I'm like, this is why I don't date outside my race. So this is one of those never say nevers. So I can honestly say that was the winner bet, because we have nothing in common. Nothing stirs in me. Nothing. When I look at a Black man, I love his lips, the thickness, the melanin, just everything that a Black man is, the unspoken understandings that I'm not going to get that from, like I said, date outside your race, love who you love. For me, I am connected to the Black man. I come from the drum, and I've been saying that. So there's nothing, I will either be by myself or be with the Black man. That's it. There's no, like I can't even think of a white person in Hollywood that's attractive. I don't know, because I don't look at white men. They don't exist to me.
So
and with that being said, to piggyback off of what you said and what your wife said, you don't address him like that. And going back to the original topic, can Black men lead? And Black women don't want to hear this word. Do you know your role? Do you know your place? Like for me, not being a biblical person, I am a submissive woman. And I purposely said that because people will say the Bible says, get down with the Bible like that. I'm submissive because of the way I was raised. Meaning he's the head of the household, but I expect him to lead. I'm not giving him permission. There's one thing I want to say, that this question that I've asked every Black woman on this planet, and all of them have failed this question. You're in the house with your husband, watching the game, doorbell rings. You go get the door. There is a man out there selling vacuum cleaners. What do? Girl, I just wave him away, tell him we don't need nothing, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Wrong, 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 wrong. You tell him, hold on, you close that door, and you go get your husband, because there's a man at the fucking door. Your husband needs to talk to him. You can be behind him like that meme, being nosy, because if you got a boy child, your son needs to see that dynamic. That's number one. Number two, because the world that we live in today, you don't know if he coming back casing whatever out while you're all in your powerful Black woman mode. I can do this. Has nothing to do with that. It's about roles. So if you want a Black man to lead, do you know your role? Do you know your place? And yes, I did say place. Now, if there's a woman at the door, I can handle that. But another man at the door, I'm not talking to you. I got a nigga in my house. I got a man in my house. I got a boy child, which I actually do. And he needs to see that dynamic.
I like that. I like that.
Like I said, every woman has answered that wrong. And I was saying this in my 20s.
So speaking of 20s, both of you ladies have passed the 20s. Speaking of 20s, speaking of today, let's get to the heart of the matter. I'll speak on it first because I'm a man, and I'll just be critical of my demographic that's out here. We leave a lot to be desired as men right now. I have 5 daughters, and then I have now 3 beautiful stepdaughters, and 7 of the 8 are dating age, and I hear it up and down the spectrum about the slim pickings. And the reality is that I mentor young men, and I see the slim picking. I actually believe I have a tankism. It's something that I believe has affected the state of male-female relationships. You go back to the beginning of how things were when, the earliest man was on the planet, and the alpha male got everything. Heavy was the head that wore the crown. He had to fight when the villagers came from the other village to take over. He had to fight them off. When it was time to go get food, he had to hunt. And as a result of being this guy, he got the best women, all the women, he got everything. And I think what happened in that dynamic, funny enough, if you said this to women today, I believe a lot of women would say, well, women got fed up with that model and changed it. I don't think that's what happened. None of us were there to actually know what happened, but I don't think that's what happened. I don't think women complained, because women, from our earliest design of knowing what humanity is, they want to be protected and provided. And Bruno was protecting and providing. He might not have gotten to you to the next day if you were the 20th woman, but he still looked out for everybody. I think who complained were the dudes that weren't as dope as Bruno. Those dudes, the beta males, the zeta male, said, why is Bruno getting all the coochie? This is not right. And then he went to the lower echelon of the women. And he said, Sally, ain't you tired of being the girl that Bruno comes to on the 3rd day? Don't you think you should have a man come to you on the 1st day? And Sally said, well, when you put it that way, yeah. And they invented these rules of one man for one woman, and, everything is fair and equitable. And what I believe it started to create was bullshit men. You no longer had to be Bruno to get women. You no longer had to be the protector, the provider, the leader to get a woman. Everybody got a woman. It was like what we do now with participation trophies in sport. So now the dudes that smoke weed all day and play PlayStation, they get a woman just as quick as a multimillionaire, because everybody gets a woman. And what happens now? Women say, look what we got to pick from. But you killed the desire to be Bruno when you got with the simp ass dude and said, you're right.
So
go ahead. What were you going to say, Kelly?
To that, especially the video games, to me, that goes back. What I say to that, when I hear you and I agree with you to a certain extent, but at the end of the day, women control that. I've never dated a man that played a video game. Never. And I never will. So when I hear women talk about their relationships complaining, they're about 30 minutes here video games. So you want someone to play video games? I ain't hear nothing else you said, because that's all I need to know. Do. That's on you. I keep it real simple. You can't tell me he's not. At the end of the day, he plays video games and you've been with him for 2 years. So what are we talking about? Even with your thing with Bruno picking the bad whatever, you're just like, all right, you can still have standards. My brother did the same thing. My brother was gorgeous, but he purposely dated fat girls because he knew they was virgins back in the day, to the point you just made. Making them feel like butter, money, all of that, because no one was paying them any attention. Now, my brother was handsome, but he was like, I don't want the problems of a pretty girl. I'm going to go over here, take her to get Denny's and a sweater, and she happy, and then I'm going to go to her house and drop this sweater off when I know she not there, and now I'm banging her mother because her mother's single too.
Your brother's game plan was legendary.
What? Was it? Oh my God, Sharon's not here right now. Oh, I just wanted to surprise her and just drop this off for her. Well, come in, Mark. Mm-hmm.
And it shows that women have been trifling. Ashley, what do you think about the prospects? We talked about what's out here today, but what do you think about the prospects of finding the type of man today, or excuse me, finding the type of man that existed 20, 30 years ago versus the one today?
Crackers.
You know, I think it's interesting because I said something earlier and I said dating is ghetto, right? And I think that's overwhelmingly my own lens of dating. And I think that's why I took a step back. And I remember having this conversation with my homegirl, and I'm asking her, what are you looking for? And she's like, dress nice, got money, and something else. And I'm like, girl, that's it. There's hella of them out here. Like, you can find anybody with money that dress nice and have a nice place to live. Like, that's like, there's an abundance of them. But what exactly are you looking for? And I find that overwhelmingly for me, when I think about dating, it's not necessarily that there's a lack of options out there. I think there's a lot of people that date from their trauma and a lot of people that date that don't really know what they want from their person. And I think that's a lot of why I took the step back, so I didn't have to date from my trauma, because Kelly said something very interesting. And I'm like, that might work for you, but it might not work for my house. And does that necessarily mean that my husband or my person is any less of a leader, or I'm any less submissive, or I'm any less of a wife because I do something that does not work for your household? And I think the more that we, or for me, what worked for me in terms of taking a step back is because I really had a chance to look at myself and say, girl, you really bugging. Sometimes you're bugging. Like, let's not fucking, like, don't forget that sometimes you're actually tripping. It's not always him. And I had to take a step back and say, no, you really are on some crazy stuff. And it's okay. And when I looked at my mom, no shade to your wife, and then I also looked at the conversations that my grandmother would have the older that she's getting. She's telling all her business, and she wasn't doing that before. I'm recognizing that there's some generational patterns and curses and things that none of y'all did for whatever reason. And so for me, I wanted to do it right, because I don't want to carry whatever generational burdens and curses and things that she might or they might have had that was taught to us at a subconscious level. And that's where I recognize that overwhelmingly I might say it's trash, because I'm recognized there's a lot of people out here dating from their traumas, their triggers in this subconscious level of dating. And I date very purposefully and I date very consciously, that I'm like Kelly, that I'm like, if you're inviting me on a date, why are you asking me certain questions and you invited me here? I ain't never paid for no date. Why am I going there if you expected me to do certain things? I might offer out of common courtesy because I have decorum, but I'm not offering because that's what I'm expecting out of a person that wants to date me, because I have very clear things that I want out of the person who I expect to be my husband, the leader in my life, the provider in my life. Because what does providing, protecting, being a leader mean? Because for me, protecting also means protecting my mental health. And that doesn't mean you're responsible for my mental health. It means that I understand that I suffer with mental health stuff. And that means if I'm trying to push myself to do things beyond my natural barriers and boundaries, you're going to be the leader in our household to say, nah, you need to take a break before something else goes left. I'm putting the pause on that. I'm telling your friends you can't go out. I'm doing this because I've seen you overworking yourself. And that's where, for my household, that's a provider. That's a protector. And it may not necessarily mean he has a 6-figure job. He might have been a flunky and a stoner, and he might have whatever else going on, but that's where he is providing and protecting me. So that's where, for me, I had to really take a step back and recognize where I was settling for my trauma or settling for my subconscious area of dating. And I date more purposefully now. So it seems a little ghetto because I'm looking at a lot of people where I hadn't looked at it in the past, 10 years ago, because I was still dating out of my trauma. So it was fine doing the little things that I was doing, and I wasn't automatically thinking of it. But now it's not fine. Letting someone just have poor communication skills is not fine. Letting someone drop me off and then pull off before I get in my house is not fine. And you taught me certain things when I see you handle my mom, because I didn't have a father growing up. So I didn't see men opening the door or saying, no, you're not going to open this door when you get out. That's my job. That's something that's on my list that I expect somebody to open the door, because my stepfather did that. And I never seen a man do that, because that wasn't a part of my, I guess, teaching, or what having a father in your household, a father who's not just a father, but also a father that's a leader, could teach you how to date out here in society. And that's very important, that I didn't gain until I went through a horrible breakup. And quite honestly, till I met you.
Well, I appreciate that. I love you, and I love you for saying that. Thank you. We are going to take a quick break, because Wealth Our Way has a program designed to make sure that everybody within the sound of my voice is prepared for retirement, prepared for the unfortunate part of life that happens for all of us, are going to.
It's funny, they say that man plans and God laughs. When I started Wealth Our Way, it was all about financial planning, trying to help people who came from underserved communities to get the same type of financial knowledge that those who are in the 1% get. But over the course of having Wealth Our Way, I learned a very serious pain point that affects many communities, but especially underserved communities. There just isn't anywhere to go to get estate planning documents, as well as learn about life insurance and retirement planning. So I created a program to solve that, the Wild Wealth Jumpstart. It's a simple program. You get 3 of the most crucial estate planning documents: a simple will, a durable power of attorney, and a healthcare proxy. But on top of that, you get an assessment of where you stand in terms of your retirement planning, as well as a complete indoctrination to all things life insurance. We do that for the low price of $697 or 4 installments of $197. So whether you're planning for your own retirement, looking at getting your own estate documents, or want to help a family member, spread the information about Wealth Our Way and the Wealth Jumpstart. Thank you.
So I appreciate you guys bearing with the new style of the format of the Financial Power Hour. And I hope you found that brief commercial about the Wild Wealth Jumpstart helpful. And by all means, contact us at info@Wealth Our Way to find out more. But we're about to get right back into the program with these 2 beautiful women, Ashley, Shannon, and Kelly. We are talking about, do Black women find Black men to be sufficient leaders? And we've gotten such great intel thus far, but now it's just time to ask the question. Kelly touched on it about the word submissive, which seems to be a 4-letter word in our society today. God forbid you ask somebody, are they submissive, to be submissive. But I like, and once again, I'm not going to be easy on the brothers. You know, I think that, you know, as the saying goes, when the student is ready, the teacher shall appear. And Ashley has done a great job of explaining that everything ain't for everybody. And my boy Kamari, shout out to the finance rebel. Kamari always says personal finance is personal. Great statement. And if you really think about it, you can translate that to life in general. Yeah, we're on here talking. It's a talk show. We're talking in generalities. But the reality is that every element is going to be different, if not at least by an iota, for each person. What works in my house might not work in your house. What works for people over 50 may not work for people under 50. So do take with a grain of salt that we're talking in generalities. But the question remains, in general, do Black women still have faith in Black men? And do they feel as though we as Black men can lead? Can we lead the household? So now I'm going to spin it to the financial element of the show. It is a fact that in America, if you go back to the 60s, when the federal government rewarded Black women for being sans Black men, all of the social programs to get a house, to get food stamps, to get anything of substance from the government, the number one requirement was that there be no man around. And it was the beginning of the proliferation of the Black family being dismantled. Then you had the war on drugs, which disproportionately attacked, punished, and institutionalized Black men. I think everything has an unintended consequence. One of the unintended consequences of locking up Black men in droves were Black women had to be it. You know, I'm not saying that they weren't ready to be it at all. Don't call in and say I didn't say black women only by default became the shit. Black women stepped up though and got educated at high numbers, got skilled in labor at high numbers, and became resilient. Now, I always say that was the unintended consequence because now you've made this very, very powerful black woman educated, moneyed, you know, worldly. But maybe it wasn't unintended, because what's the number one thing you can say when you're that person and you got a guy who's fresh out? I don't need no man. And men need to be needed. That's the fabric of who we are. So let's talk about that. Ashley, I see you chopping at the bits. Jump on that for me.
I just want to jump on that because Kelly said something to me earlier about I'm like a unicorn out here because I'm 35 with no kids. But it's like sometimes I feel the opposite way because I'm 35, no kids. I have 2 degrees. I've been overseas. Like I have like all these things because that's the way I was taught, because my grandfather wasn't around. My father wasn't around. So I seen my grandmother do what she had to do with a 5th grade education. I seen my mother do what she had to do raising 3 kids. So all I knew and seen was black women doing what they have to do. And all I was raised and instilled in me was you're going to go to school and you're going to make it work. And we'll worry about the rest of that stuff later. And so to your point, I think a lot of black women that come from a similar background are hyper masculinized, and we don't know how to get out of that. And I think that's the big thing why I took a step back, because I was 30 years old, having been overseas, had a master's degree from NYU, was making all this money before I went through my mental health stuff. So quite frankly, I acted like I don't need none of y'all. I'm cool on my own. And I operated as such until I got into a more vulnerable position in my life. I started doing all this healing. And I'm like, this is not the natural order of things, to so to speak, where I'm supposed and I want to be deeply in my feminine energy. I deeply want to be nurtured from a masculine. I want somebody to protect and provide and care for me in different arenas. And it doesn't necessarily just mean financially, but I had to step back and see that the energy I was putting out there was like a fucking blocker to people to men who were truly masculine, who were truly leaders, because too masculine energy, it ain't gonna work. Somebody who's a real masculine and a real leader, I don't think that can really work.
Agreed.
So to your point that you just made, you are the blueprint, seriously the blueprint of what I told my successful female women sisters. I call it my sisterhood. You laid all your accolades. So if you have a high quality man, I'm gonna say like Tank is your equal. He got all the same shit, educated, blah, blah, blah. But men like that don't want to hear you talk that shit.
Not at all.
What I mean by that, hear me out. So 2 things, hear me out. So y'all go out to eat and you finally feel comfortable enough for him to come to your house, okay? And as he goes to the bathroom, and on his way to the bathroom, he sees your office. And he dips his head in his office like, wow, Shorty got a degree. She did it. Shorty was in the band. All the stuff that you did not tell him. You follow what I'm saying? You see, because that's what the typical black woman, pick me, I'm this, I'm that, aka blah, 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 you better have 6 figures. Don't talk about that shit. Let him discover you. So then on the way back from the bathroom, you're like, damn, I didn't know you was in the band in college, because you didn't say anything. So that little gesture right there, you've already set yourself apart from all the other bitches talk about he better have this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just keeping it 151. That's all. Tank, you know me. I'm keeping it 151. So getting back to what you said, he better have money. So you meet a man with money. So what do you think you got to do to get his money? Because he has an abundance of money. Like women never think about that. And I've always said in my dating, I will never ask you. And another thing that men have gotten accustomed to, because women have gotten them accustomed to, is buy me this for my birthday. I'm not telling you nothing, because y'all say you want a man to pay attention to you. You say you want him, blah, blah, blah. Then shut the fuck up and let him do him. Let him do as it relates to me. I've always said, do what you feel, because I will never ask.
Well, I'll edit just the one
all
part
about being submissive. Like you want a man to take you to dinner, open your door, pay for the bill, all of this. What are you going to do when you invite him to your house? Are you going to serve him? Are you going to ask him if he wants more? Are you going to notice that he just drank his last bit of lemonade and fill it up? But no one's ever saying that to women because women are too big bigging themselves up. Girl, I know you got 2 degrees, you done did this, but you don't know how to keep a man because you don't know how to get out of your way. Because everything that you have with most men, that's their foundation. Their mother was that. I know 3 guys to this day, 1,000,000 degrees, still ain't got no kids. Still want me and said I ruined it for everyone because I set the tone. What you're doing, how much you make, what you're driving, turn off from the door. From the door. Instead of falling back and letting him be the man. And Black women today do not know how to do that. They don't.
That's interesting because that's something that I've always done. It's not been until after my mental health struggles and my suicide attempts that I started becoming more confident in me traveling overseas. I used to tell people that's not big of a deal. Like anybody can do that. I never bigged myself up in my career. I just thought it was a natural thing because it was an expectation of the women in my family to do certain things. And so I've never been
while
that.
You haven't, you have so many Black women that do. Tank, am I right or wrong? Am I right or wrong? I'm this, I'm an A. They let you know all and everything you have ever done. I know Black men want to hear that.
I have those friends. And I think because going to college, I have the friends that went to Spelman. I went to Clark Atlanta for my first year, and then I transferred to Georgia State. So I have the Spelmanites. I have the Clark girls. I know the Howard girls. But I always was the odd girl out because I was more of the ghetto person. I was the one that didn't come from family that could provide them to go to school. I was the girl that mother dropped her behind off and then headed back to Jersey because she got 2 other kids and she got to take care of. And no, you got to get your own student loans out. So while I was around the friends that was in the sororities, I was the one that knew I have a grandmother that had a 5th grade education and my mom can't help me pay for school. Where the other friends I had were those ones or were the ones that, all these things. So I never had that line of sight of saying, oh, all these things. I think it was more so I can do for myself because I didn't see the men around my life. And so because it was my mom didn't have this, my grandmother didn't have this, it was one of y'all going to eventually leave. So I'm going to take care of myself. And I think it was more of a trauma response versus an accolade response. Because I've gotten, like, when I was very young, it was more of a distance kind of thing. Like, as long as you could provide for me, do the things for me, you could be in my life. But I never wanted you to be as a connecting point in my life. And then I got into a relationship. And then I went through all these things. And then I realized, oh, I'm a unicorn, like, really out here. Because now I'm older. And now I want to date. And I want to date with purpose. And it's just like, okay, when you find out I'm this person, and that's more so sometimes what it becomes when you find out, oh, I got these degrees, I've been overseas. After you thought I was whoever you thought I was, it becomes like, do I live up to her expectation? It's like, no, I'm regular Ashley, the same person you met a month ago, and I just happen to have degrees. But that's his trauma from somebody else. That's his trauma from someone else. Like, do I live up? Exactly.
And like you said, you're just regular Ashley. You're just regular Ashley. So I can definitely relate to that because you call yourself a unicorn. I will tell you, I've been single. I've been single longer than I've been in relationships, but I don't have any he ain't shit stories. I can see dick coming. Trust and believe that. And I can play along. I can go out on the first date and the guy can talk about sex, and I'm going right when I was like, yeah, we probably could have sex, but you know what? You don't know my body well enough for me to fuck you right now. You don't know this titty sensitive and this one not. You don't know any of this. But we can talk about sex. Men are not expecting that either. Right. And then I've said, and most men don't know how to eat pussy. You think you do, but you don't. So what are we fucking for? It changes the whole landscape of things.
I want to talk about that on here.
Okay. I'm just saying, if we're gonna talk about sex, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I would say this. That's interesting. I would love the fellas to comment on that. It's funny because they take a survey and they ask people all the time, how good a driver you think, are you a good driver? I think is what the question is. And 83% of the people say yes, but statistically that can't be true. So It's the same thing probably with the going down on people. Are you good at it? Hell yeah. You know, but I blame women for any shortcoming that a man has sexually. Because if you're here faking orgasms and ain't telling dudes what's going on, then you get what you get. Because
to the point that I just made. Yeah. Like my brother, may he rest in peace, he said it the best. He said, Smell, this girl told me that I didn't make her come. And he looked at me, he said, did she think she was going to get the good dick? I got to go to get up in the morning and go to work dick. And this is a muscle relaxing. He kept it 151.
And that's a good point because, and that goes back to what I said earlier about people level setting their expectations. Like, are you just dating to date? Are you dating to have sex? Is this a one night stand? Because people going into this, they thinking they just having sex tonight, and you thinking you're gonna have a boyfriend tomorrow, and that's a whole different expectation that people don't communicate. And I've come from, in my friends, I'm more blunt than my friends. Where I've told men like, this is not that. This is not gonna be nothing long term. I don't want that. I'm doing me. And my friends are like, how can you do that? And I'm like, well, how do you expect to get what you want? What do they say? Closed mouth don't get fed. So if you don't open your mouth.
But I wouldn't voice that. Like if I were you, I wouldn't voice that. I would go out on a date. That's like a short guy. I could date a short guy. I don't fuck with short guys. He ain't got to know I'm not fucking with him no more because he's short. You don't owe anyone anything.
For me, I don't like to waste my time. Time is valuable. Well, time is money to me. So if I put it on the table, I don't have time. I mean, you could still waste my time.
How do you know until you get into it?
I won't.
How do you know?
I won't. But I know if I at least put some of the stuff out on the table, there's a better chance for me having you to say, oh, no, I can't meet that, versus you playing games with me and I never have put it out there. I'm a firm believer. Put it out there. You might meet somebody like Tank that's going to tell you the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Or you're going to meet somebody that's going to finesse you, whether you tell them everything up front or you're going to be finessed 8 months and 12 years.
I guess what I'm saying is don't tell them anything. Like just have a conversation. I'm not going, because if I'm a guy and I meet someone like you and she telling me this, that, and the other, I said, I'm never seeing her again because she done laid everything out. That's just me.
And
because you haven't given time. I'm just saying you haven't given time to pass. That's all I'm trying to say. The first date, I'm not telling you nothing. We keeping it light. We keeping it fluffy. And truth be told, this is the person that you might end up with. You're gonna have to fuck them at some point in time. But for me, I'm saying prior to. I'm just saying.
First date, and that's too much for you. Then that means we're not supposed to be together. Right. And so that's for me. I'd rather say more, and you decide to walk away because for me, thank you.
So
yourself out of my life.
Let me say this. What you just said, what you're both saying, is a situation I just experienced the other day. I was at the barbershop in Atlanta, and my barbershop is unisex. Women get their hair braided in there. So I came in. I'm always gregarious and loud everywhere I come into. There was a young lady getting braids. The woman who does her braids did twist my son's hair, so everybody knows me in there. And I came in, and we started talking about the Best Man final chapters real quick. So I sat down, and I don't know how. I've never met a stranger. We're talking, and all of a sudden, me and the young lady in the chair we're the four of us, my barber and me, the young lady in the hairstyle. We're just talking about relationships and dating. And it was very similar to what you're saying, Ashley, where the girl was saying, well, I tell a man this, and this. And I was like, I appreciate that transparency, because here's the difference between me and most men, though. I am a salesperson. I'm a financial planner, but I've been selling financial products for 25 years. You cannot be in sales, which is why I think me and Kelly bond so quickly, because Kelly has been in sales. You can't be in sales and survive unless you can get used to rejection. You can't be in sales and survive unless you believe you can make the next sale. So there's two overriding mindsets in sales: the scarcity mindset, the abundance mindset. Every great salesperson that I've ever met has the abundance mindset. This person told me no. Let me finish talking to them so I can get to this yes that's behind them. And when I was talking to Shorty, and I wasn't trying to pimp her or anything like that, I think my natural demeanor of talking comes across that way, like Richard Pryor told Eddie Murphy in Harlem Nights. I just said her hello. He said, yeah, but you got a way of saying hello. So, I was talking to her, we were talking, and she was saying what she needs here, what she needs here. I said, well, I would tell you this. I would tell you me and you could never be together. I would tell you I would never try to hit. but you become my friend, because I keep women as friends, because I bet you got a rack of girlfriends that I can get with. So I'm not going to sit here and do what most men would do. Most men are going to figure out how to F. That's what the goal is. You could tell them, I don't like when people wear red. I don't like people who drive. I don't like people who smoke. Knowing that your whole closet is full of red, you don't have no car, and you a chain smoker. You're going to pretend to not be any of that until you have sex. And then dudes wonder why their tires get slashed, car windows get broken out. You done completely frauded this chick to get something that wasn't for you. Like she told you, I'm not for you. And you couldn't accept it. I accept that immediately. Big Tank ain't everybody's bag of chips. But what we find is when you find somebody who likes that flavor, it's an amazing thing.
Yep.
And I think too many people approach life with this scarcity mindset that I have to close this because there is nobody else. I got to close this sale because there are no other prospects. And what I have learned in my 52 and a half years, of which 25 of them, I have been super morbidly obese by the health definition. I have never had trouble getting a date, ever. Because ever. We already know, K-Rob, you frozen, but I know you are echoing the ever. You see me run down on these chicks in the street. You know, the reality is because I don't give a damn if I'm not for you. Slide out the way and show me where your mom's is. Slide out the way and show me where your sister is. Slide out the way and show me where your cousin is. And so many dudes just come with that desperation, which, as we only have 5 minutes left in the program, I'm going to pose the question for each of you. When you look at Black men and the state of the Black man in this country as we stand, do you feel as though for Black women who have become so decorated that there can ever be an element of saying, Black man, I'm 100% with you. By design, this relationship is going to work with me in my role and you in your role, and I trust you and I can depend on you for your leadership. Is that a very real possibility?
Absolutely.
For me, Tank, I'm just gonna go on, Ashley, because you're on the screen. For me, Tank, I'm gonna say yes, it is a real possibility. However, if we're being realistic, it is not a real possibility because you have a lot of women that have all of their stuff. They have all of their stuff, and for whatever, their degrees, their jobs, or this, that, and the other. And truth be told, those type of women don't know how to relinquish that. And I'll say it the easiest way I can say it. When Judge Judy comes home, she's not a judge. And you got a lot of high tier women that when they come home, they still at work. You're not. You're and a lot of women don't know how to make that transition for the reasons that Ashley said. You didn't have a man in the house. You didn't see the hierarchy. You didn't see the pecking order. You didn't get an example of that. And some women are just like, I'm against women hyphenating their name, keeping their maiden name. I'm against all of that because I've said when women do that, you think you're equal to him. That's just me. So if you're coming in with that mindset, or you do find a man, you want to keep your maiden name, the shit's doomed. So I'm going to say it's 50-50, but I don't think the women have the right type of women in their ear because you got too many women that think alike. That's just me.
Ashley, what are your thoughts on it?
So I think overwhelmingly, I think Black men are the pinnacle of what leadership can be, and from a masculine perspective. I think overwhelmingly what we as Black people need to do, there's a lot of generational trauma and a lot of generational curses that are deeply embedded in who we are. And a lot of what I talk about in spirituality is energy. I don't talk about gender or gender identity. I talk about masculinity and femininity. And just like women have feminine energy, so do men. And it's just like men have masculine energy, so do women. And I think it's a matter of understanding because there are straight men who are feminine energy dominant, just like there are straight women who are masculine energy dominant. And I think it's a matter of understanding within our individual selves and as a collective, who you are individually as a part of our collective whole as a unit. And I think the more because we Black people have a different subset of issues, and then we Black people with the level of privilege that we have. And I understand, I'm a Black person that come from the hood, that my mom did what she could do and moved us out. And I have a level of privilege because of my life experiences. How does that translate into my family unit, my workplace, my love life, and my dynamics with my person? And I think for me to see that, and for us to see that, we have to have a level of healing that not necessarily takes place within ourselves, but within our units together, so that we can see the natural order that God created for the divine masculine in our life to be the leader, whoever the divine feminine is to be the spiritual leader. I call it a spiritual leader and a physical leader, a material leader, and that's the masculine's role, whoever that might be in the feminine, because I consider that energy-wise. And the feminine is more of the spiritual and leader of the soul. So I think naturally Black men are the divine masculine of society. And so they naturally have that leadership within them.
I love it. I love it. Well, we are closing out. I want to thank you ladies for starting my year off perfectly. Now that we went to this format of the last Wednesday of every month at 6 p.m., I'm telling you, we bat and clean up with a big stick. And we started it off with Ashley, Shannon, and Kelly. Ladies, close out by telling people where they can find you on social media or anywhere else to get information on you if they want to hook up with a conversation. I ain't making no dates connections, just a conversation about what more information that you can offer them. Kels?
You can hit me up on Instagram. I don't have time for social media, but I will get Instagram, ROBALL, the letter N, the letter U on Instagram.
Love it. Ash?
That's all I got.
So you all can find me. There's an app called Bigo Live app, BIGO Live app, and you can find me at Bigo ID Glow Bay Diaries, GLOWBAE Diaries.
Love you both. Can't think of a better combination of femininity and masculinity inside of femininity that I would have rather have had on the show, because y'all are both everything to me in different ways for different reasons. Love you both. Thank you both for taking time out to be part of the Financial Power Hour.
Thank you, Tank.
Thank you for inviting me. Nice meeting you, Kelly.
Hey.
Stay here, Ashley. You haven't heard the last of me. I'm tell you, like my mama said,
I enjoyed this. So definitely invite me for the next one.
Okay.
Or whenever.
For more great content like this, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page at Wealth Our Way Network. Also, don't forget to follow us on IG and Facebook. Remember, wealth is not only for the wealthy.